Hey, we're picking up on Job's story, a phenomenal book if you've never read this book of the Bible. Job chapter 1, verse 12, Satan has said, I want to go and persecute Job. And God, if you'll let me harm him enough, I know he'll turn from you. And God then says in verse 12, all right, you may test him. You can do anything you want to his possessions, but you're not allowed to take his life. And then the very end of verse 12, so Satan left the Lord's presence. Satan's now going to go and attack Job. Now, I mentioned yesterday that my own physical sickness, I believe, is an attack from Satan. And I don't believe that that means God has abandoned me. I also believe that there are many times we go through sickness and it's not satanic attack. I think there are a lot of times that we go through sickness and it's just life in a fallen world. And I would hold my conclusion in any given trial. Is this life in a fallen world or satanic attack? I would always hold it loosely because ultimately only God knows for sure. But here's what I do know. Ever since I've become a pastor, neurological issues that would slow me down in communicating God's truth have become a kind of frequent thorn in the flesh. Paul the Apostle, had a thorn in the flesh. And in the book of, it's either 1st or 2nd Corinthians, he describes his thorn in the flesh. And he says it was, quote, a messenger of Satan sent to torment me. We also think Paul's thorn in the flesh had to do with blindness in his eyes based on what he writes in some later epistles. And so it was physical, but Paul attributed it to Satan. So I think with what I've given my life to and that my whole pursuit is to communicate God to people, the fact that on occasion I get these neurological things, it could just be from the fall or it could be from Satan. Either way, my response should be the same. And when you go through suffering, whether you think it's from Satan or the fall, really, either way, the response is the same. God, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to lean into you. I'm going to believe that like Joseph, who went through being sold as a slave, the pit, the prison, ultimately ended up as Pharaoh's right-hand person. Job, who's going to lose all this stuff, grow in his faith, and then get twice as much. God, you're in control. And whether you're allowing this because it's a fallen world or you're allowing Satan to test me and I get to prove to all of heaven. I mean, think of what an opportunity if you are getting tested by Satan, that all of heaven is watching and you get to show your loyalty to God and it'll be documented for all of eternity. Man, that's worth going through some pain. In fact, you think of verse 8 here where God says, have you noticed my servant Job? I was joking with our film team here. This is almost something you don't want God to say about you. You almost don't want God to draw attention to you in the presence of the enemy. But what an eternal achievement for Job that God said, have you noticed him? There's not a more blameless person of complete integrity. Now, I wouldn't say that of myself, but I would say this for you. Wherever there's suffering in your life, be encouraged. All of heaven is watching. Prove your loyalty to God by insisting that you trust him and love him, even if you don't understand what you're going through. I'll see you tomorrow for more Daily Hope.